There we go. Heck yeah. Awesome.
Better?
Yeah. How long has Stir Crazy been open?
We opened a little over 7 years ago, 2017, September of 2017.
Long time. So through the pandemic,
Yeah.
what was your motivation to open a comedy club? And are you glad you did it as a spoiler alert?
Um, I used to be a comedian myself, and I started kind of much like you. I started producing my own shows kind of around the valley, and I just started really enjoying that part of it a lot more. And I don't know. Next thing I know, we opened a club. A couple of buddies of mine, they own other bars and restaurants and stuff, and I kind of broached the subject with them, and they're like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we did it, and here we are.
Nice. What would you say, like, roughly percentage-wise is comedy versus owning a restaurant bar, operating a comedy club? Like, just
Um,
I don't know by what measure, but,
yeah, I
you can do
mean,
that.
obviously most clubs make a lot of revenue from their food and drinks, hence the drink minimums and all of that. We don't have minimums, so we have a bit of a different business model. We make our money on ticket sales. We don't sell a lot of food. Um, Although, the kitchen is probably the biggest headache, running a kitchen, you know? Um, so I don't know. It's still comedy. I mean, ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, you know?
Mhm. Do you think you could have done it without restaurant partners?
I would have figured it out eventually, but they had a lot of experience, so, things went a lot smoother than it would have without them, for sure, and a lot less money. And they're foodies. I'm not really a foodie. I really don't care about food that much.
Okay.
Um, I mean, I had my own ideas on how to serve food in a comedy club. Um, but yeah, they made it definitely the process was a lot easier with them.
Can you talk about those ideas? By the way, North Carolina is saying, "Hey, Mark, and welcome, Tom." All right, cool. Um, yeah, what were your thoughts on food? That's interesting.
Um, well, kind of everything, in my view, should support the comedy. So I didn't want a lot of I wanted good quality food. I didn't want, garbage bar food, but we didn't want a big menu. I didn't want um I didn't want a lot of complicated stuff that, oh, I didn't order this with that and, just all that kind of stuff. I wanted it as simple as possible, without a lot of extra, utensils and just, it's not a restaurant, right?
Mhm.
I didn't want that to distract from what's happening in
Is
comedy.
the food there as part of, like, the liquor licensing? Like, could you just get rid of the
Mm-mm.
food, or do you need that because you sell booze?
No, I could get rid of the food. I could, yeah.
Have have you ever do you wish you'd started without food, or
No, it's one of those things where, like I said, it's not a big revenue source for us, but, if somebody shows up and they want to eat, I want to have food for them. I
oh,
myself, when my wife and we go to a lot of comedy shows and, we always eat. That's just part of our night. And I've been to a couple clubs that didn't serve food, but I didn't know that they didn't serve food. So I
ah,
sat, being hangry through the
yeah.
show. So, it's just, I don't want to make it sound like it's some nightmare serving food. It just complicates
There's a
things, you
a
know?
lot of stuff, like, you gotta
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
a grease trap is and have the
yeah,
kitchen space and hire the staff to operate it, and you gotta deal with Cisco and get the food coming in and out, and,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. It's definitely a lot more, makes things a lot more complicated.
just
But
have it is so trivial, but do you have a dishwasher or is everything disposable?
no, we have a dishwasher.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Interesting. All right, let's talk about the club layout a little bit. I know you're precise on you're into details, and
yeah.
it shows in the club. It's a great club.
Thank you.
What tell us about the layout. Like, when you got the space, was there anything in there, or was it just like a concrete shell?
There had been a restaurant there before, so it wasn't a shell. We had to do. We We had to put in a ceiling. It had high ceilings, which I didn't want. We had to put up a couple walls.
What you talk about the ceiling? I've never actually looked up at your club. Is it like one of those panel things?
Yeah, it's a drop ceiling, but when
Okay,
we went in there, it was a very high ceiling with, exposed,
pipes and stuff.
yeah. So I didn't want that. So yeah, we put in a drop ceiling.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does it
which,
is it is there anything special acoustically about the material you used?
no,
Okay.
no. They're just typical panels,
Okay.
But I mean, so much of if for someone who wants to open a club, a comedy club, so much is dictated by the space that you have. Um, you know, it's just so much of your startup costs are going to be build out, right? And that's going to be completely dictated by the space that you find. Um, we had a lot of showroom build out. It was just a big empty space. Um, so we had a lot of showroom build out. The kitchen was in place, but we had to buy all the equipment. There was a walk-in and
Hmm.
a hood, which are two very expensive items if you have to buy them. But everything else in the kitchen was brand new. We had to put it all in there. And the showroom was, yeah, it's pretty much just the showroom and the green room had to be built out. So we got
Okay.
lucky.
So what do you do about has the sound changed since day one?
The sound, as in
Yeah.
the audio system?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've put in, I'm on my second PA system,
Okay.
only because I don't know anything about sound quality and I just got fed up and bought a new system thinking that maybe that would solve the problem. Uh, which it didn't. I just, I think I've said this before in other podcasts. I think probably 90% of comedy clubs just don't sound good.
Yeah.
And, part of the reason is it's very difficult to make just a vocal sound good, right? If with music, you just turn it up and it's going to sound decent, but just a vocal is actually kind of tough to get a good warm sound, especially, in a comedy club where you don't want you want to contain the laughter and you want the laughter bouncing around. So we have hard surfaces, we got wood chairs, you know what I mean? You want that. But when laughter's bouncing around, so do the audio waves, which creates noise. So that's the tightrope that you're trying to walk. So I get why a lot of comedy clubs don't sound very good, but I was adamant that I wanted it to sound good. So it took me a long time to get it dialed in. Finally, I think it is dialed in, um, but yeah, again, I don't know anything about sound system, and I had so many sound men come through there just to try to figure it out. Nothing. I just couldn't get it to happen. So finally, I spent a whole Saturday. I bought a new system, and I spent a whole Saturday watching YouTube videos on how to get an audio system. And finally I got it, and now it's set. I'm like, don't touch anything. Because if someone turned the wrong knob, I wouldn't know how to undo it.
Right.
So, but yeah, it took me a while, but
You just super glue
I'm
those knobs into place.
yeah, right, yeah.
Do you this will transition into another question, but is there a club that you would mention that has the best sound in America?
The sound, the it's called, I think it's called the Little Boy at Rogan's Club at the Mothership, the smaller room.
Huh. I haven't been there.
Fantastic,
Really?
fantastic, yeah.
Huh. What,
And coincidentally, one of my best friends is friends with the guy that did the audio there. And I've
huh.
been meaning to have my own podcast episode with him because I want to praise him. But yeah, that both rooms sound fantastic, but that one especially is just it's amazing. Yeah,
Huh.
I'm jealous of that room.
That's cool. So I happen to know the answer to this, but you go to a lot of comedy clubs, correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you do that? And what do you do when you go to these clubs?
I just want to see how other people do stuff. I obviously, if you know anything about me, I'm pretty anal about all the little details, but I'm not precious. If somebody else is doing something in a better way, I'll do it that way too.
Mhm.
And vice versa. If if a club wants to do something the way we're doing, good. Let's make all of us better experiences. So I just like to see, however the people do things. Whether it's you know the production or just the operationally speaking, how do the servers do what they do? How does the kitchen set up? All of that kind of stuff. I'm really into that whole thing, the customer experience. So yeah, we go to a lot of clubs. Yeah, it's kind of our thing. We do that quite a bit.
Yeah. What's something or a couple of things that you've maybe borrowed from other clubs or that you might borrow in the future? Something that you're thinking
Um,
about?
so I'll tell you a recent one. We went to see Jimmy Dore at Wise Guys in Las Vegas. Not the one in the Arts District, the newer one. And I love their platters that they serve their food on. I'm like, gonna
Hmm.
get them. Took a picture of the bottom of it, came home, ordered them. We converted to that immediately. Um,
Can you explain what's good about them?
I just like the way that they look. I mean, it really came down to that. I've never liked
What did you have before?
art.
Did you have baskets?
No, we had white dishes.
Okay.
Um, but I'm not, man, this is getting into weeds that
That's
no
fine.
one's else
This
but
is
you and I care about at
no,
all.
people care.
I didn't like our plates. They're white, and I don't like white plates. It seems very cafeteria to me, but I
Okay.
keep my room very dark, so we can't have dark plates.
Hmm.
Um, and I just like their platters, and we're just doing it that way.
Okay. What
Um,
color are they?
the platters are black, but we use green and white checkered paper on them, and it's
Okay.
just a better presentation. That's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Are they,
Um,
what are they made of? Are they ceramic or are they
no, they're
plastic?
plastic.
Oh,
Yeah, they
nice.
were very inexpensive compared to what I already had. They just look better. I was like, all right, they look better. What can I say?
Nice.
Um, and then also I really like the way that Wise Guys does their open mic. I haven't done that because I have somebody else that runs the open mic, but I like the way that they do their open mics.
What about
Um,
it do you like? I've been to
I
the
like,
Salt Lake City Wise Guys open mic,
and
and I
maybe they
love it.
don't,
As a comedian, I love it because there were 300 people there, which is
yeah.
incredible.
I just like the logistics. And this I've only seen the open mic at Wise Guys at the art in the one at the Arts District.
Okay.
So I don't know if they do it everywhere, but I like that they don't have a host. I like that the DJ calls the person on deck and the person coming to the stage. It just
Mhm.
turns over very quickly. I might try that in the future. We don't do that now. Um,
So just so everybody, kinda gets a better understanding of that, like somebody is in the back of the room on a god mic
right.
saying, "So and so's in the hole, so and so's on deck, so and so,
Exactly.
please welcome so and so to the stage." And they
Yeah.
also have, at least in Salt Lake City, they have a timer, and you can see the
Yeah.
timer, you know how much time you have, and they do move it along very
Yeah.
quickly. So the audience gets to see a lot of comics, and a lot of comics get to perform, which
Right.
is a benefit, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um yeah, that's awesome. Any other what are some clubs on your, future list? Is there anything I feel like you've probably been to every comedy club in America almost.
No. We've been to a lot of them for sure. I've become friendly with Jenny Canfield from Laughs Unlimited
Okay.
in Sacramento, and I've never been to her club. So my wife and I were debating on whether to go this weekend or the following weekend, but that's our plan to go see Jenny's club.
Okay. When you go that in Sacramento, just north of Sacramento, there's a casino called Thunder Valley Casino, and I did a gig there, and they had a poster for Seinfeld at the same now, I did, like, a very tiny room, but apparently
Hmm.
they spent a gazillion dollars building out this huge theater, so it might be interesting to see what big name they have at this theater and,
Hmm.
if there's any comedy at the same time. It's very pretty, very
Hmm.
nice there. I've never been to Laughs Unlimited either. Is Laughs a chain or is that a just a single?
I think no, I think it's just hers.
uh,
Yeah.
have you ever considered opening a second location and kinda taking advantage of, I don't know, vendor relationships or whatever?
Um, you know, I've thought about it. I've been approached about it. Ever so often, somebody will contact me about opening a club or buying into a club. Um, I don't know. That question, you could ask me the same question tomorrow, and I'd probably give you a different answer. It's based on my mood, you know. If the right opportunity came, um, yeah, I maybe.
Yeah. Well, and do you mean, someplace like you could drive to, or would you consider having a stir crazy Cleveland or whatever?
Yeah, I don't think I would do another one around here. Um, Sometimes I think I'd like to open like a little tiny boutique club of like 40 seats somewhere,
Okay.
just, and make it a very specific thing, but that's just one of
Is
those
there a
things.
club that you would model like, have you been to a boutique club like that?
No, just, just a small club is all,
Yeah.
something really
Yeah.
easily containable.
It seems like New York City has a lot of those.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah. And there are a couple indie ones in the Denver area now that are about
yeah.
that size. Um, so that's interesting to me. So you've owned a club for 7 years,
Mhm.
and your next move might be a smaller room. Why is that? Is that because it's hard to fill seats, or it's just
No, it's
staff
not.
costs, or
Well, yeah, keep the cost small, but it's someplace. And again, next time I see you, if you ask me about this, I'll probably be like, "What? What are you talking about?"
sure.
Um, Someplace that I could maybe book a little less mainstreamy type of comics. Not
Okay.
not for
Like a lab.
everybody.
Oh, you
What's
know
that?
what? Like, Zanies has a lab now. Have you been to that?
I haven't. I've never been to a Zane. Take that back. I went to the one in Nashville.
Okay, yeah,
I
the
have not.
Zanies Nashville has a small room now,
Mm.
which might be worth checking out. I don't know. I've never been to either of them in Nashville, or any Zanies for that matter. Uh, okay, cool. So that's a good segue into booking. Has anything surprised you about booking over the years?
Just the sheer number of comedians. Yeah, yeah, no idea. But no, not really. I think when you have a club and you start to kind of learn your clientele, then it affects how you book a little bit, you know.
Uh-huh,
Um, and I don't book for myself, I book for who I think is going to do well for the customers. And it's a different thing when you have a small club without names, because people, they don't know the headliners that come to my club, so they're coming to see comedy.
I would
So,
say that's pretty common almost everywhere. Like,
well,
you take,
I,
like, Comedy Works, which is a 300 seater, maybe 3 times the size of your place, and I think a lot of times the customers sometimes famous people come through and their
mhm,
fans are coming, but other times there are comics there, they've been doing comedy 20 years, they're well known in the comedy community, but I think if you asked most of the customers there, they'd be like, "I got free tickets," or "Somebody
yeah,
dragged me here. I'm just here for comedy."
yeah. Well, I'm in Phoenix, so the other clubs here, Stand Up Live and Tempe Improv and Desert Ridge Improv, so they get names, and it's funny if somebody goes to a club and sees fill in the big name, and they don't like, and for whatever reason they didn't like the show, they say, "Oh, we went to see so and so. Yeah, we really didn't like him." But if they come to Stir Crazy, they see a show and they don't like it, they go, "Yeah, we went to Stir Crazy. We really didn't like it."
Yeah.
So that weighs on me a lot. I I I really feel that every show has to be, you know, great.
That's what
I take less risks than I would have thought. I tried a few risk bookings early on, and I'm much more hesitant to do that now.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I'm not going to book anybody that I think is a hack, but I book people all the time that I don't find funny,
Uh-huh.
but I know that people do and people will, so I book them.
Yeah.
You know,
Huh.
so
Do do you ever
go ahead.
talk to comics? Like, comics typically are doing 2, 4 shows over the course of a weekend, multiple shows, the headliners at least. You ever
Mhm.
talk to them, like, and ask them to course correct during the weekend? Like, they're too dirty, or I don't know.
Headliners, no.
Okay,
If you're headlining, and if the audiences aren't responding to a particular type of thing, you're probably going to figure that out. I don't need to tell you that.
okay.
I've asked, I have a little thing in the green room. I ask my features not to do crowd work, only because I know most headliners hate when the feature does crowd work. So I try to take that bullet.
Mhm.
And then I always ask my hosts to kind of keep it clean.
Mhm.
just because that's how I book. I don't know. I've always thought that hosts should be a little cleaner. But so I might ask a host, hey, can you maybe lay off the bit about your taint?
Right.
Um, but for the most part, I'm never going to tell anybody what they can or can't do. I mean, now I may not book you again,
Right.
but I'm not going to tell you, hey, don't talk about X. I'm not going to do
Sure.
that, but I may not book you, which
Yeah.
has happened.
Something I like about your club is, you have a pretty innovative lighting system. Can you talk about that? And was that from day one, or has it changed over the years?
As far as,
Just the light that's on the wall, and you got 2
oh, for the
colors and
comics.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, oh,
uh,
sorry, not the stage lighting, the light for the
yeah.
comics.
So I performed at a club. It was in Las Vegas. I don't remember where it was. It was in a hotel, some random hotel comedy club 15 years ago. And they had the two light system, yellow and red, and I just liked it. So that's why I do it. But one thing we do that I've never seen done anywhere, and I think it's such a no-brainer, is the light in the green room. Um,
Oh, yeah. Like, it
which
duplicates, right? You can
Yeah, when the comic gets the light goes on in the green room, it goes on in our foyer, it goes on in our kitchen. When the comic gets the light, everybody in the club knows the comic got the light.
mm,
Um, which it just surprises me that I've never seen that in a green room before, especially, when you're hosting, nobody tells you they got the light.
right, yeah.
So yeah, that was a unique thing that I haven't seen anywhere.
That's cool. Have you been to the Comedy Fort in Fort Collins?
Hmm.
Yeah, apparently they have a clock for the performers
Hmm.
that you can see, like, the length of your set. I think theirs counts down. So they, like,
Hmm.
if you're doing 15, it counts down from 15, but the clock is mirrored in the green room. So you can
Right.
actually see, "Oh, they have 4 minutes left. They have 2 minutes left." Uh,
We had discussed doing that, but for us, I'm real big on shows starting and stopping at the correct time. I'm
yeah.
big on that. The trains run on time. Um, and usually we make that up in the feature set.
Mm,
So the feature that's
yep.
flexible, and
Yeah.
we may not know until the middle of the set that we need the feature off a little early.
Mm.
So that's why we've never implemented that.
That's
Um,
interesting. Yeah, that's smart. You can adjust the set lengths on the fly.
yeah. I mean, sometimes the host bails out early, sometimes the host goes long for whatever reason, but the headliner, they want to do 45. I want to make sure they get 45 or 50 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, and a feature, I've never heard a feature say they don't want more time. So we kind of that's where the play is. The feature, you may do 15, you may be 25. It just depends on the headliner and the host.
Yeah. Do you have a story about going to a club and seeing a comedian and then booking them?
Oh yeah. Happens less now, but yeah, it used to happen all the time. I used to go to Vegas quite a bit, like a lot. And there's a bunch of clubs up there. So I would just kind of spin around that. And that's part of the fun, seeing a comedian that I've never seen before and really liking them and offering them a gig. That's fun to be able to do.
Yeah.
So when that happens, yeah, I like doing that.
Have
Um,
have you had regular headliners that have gotten too big for your club? Can
oh
you
yeah,
give an example of that?
sure. And that's great too. Some clubs for some reason they throw a fit when you go off and do a bigger club. But maybe it's because I was a comic, but to me that's great. You're big enough to do the Tempe Improv now. Good for you.
Yeah. I always
I'm
say that to
glad
the
I was part
comics
of your. What's that?
doing. I run, like, independent runs, maybe 3 to 6 shows back to back to back to back, and I always tell the headliners I'm driving around to these shows, like, "I hope I don't see you next year." You'll
Yeah,
probably be back here next year, but if you're too big for this next year, that's great. We all
yeah,
win.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. I'm glad I was part of your journey. That's cool.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah,
I mean, do you have a specific name you could throw out, or
yeah,
somebody you
Kristen Key. Uh, I had her pretty much every year up until last year, and she started blowing up, and now she does, the improv. And it's great. She should be. She's fantastic. So I love to see that.
That's
I love to
awesome.
see that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Let's talk about marketing a little bit. What do you
Mhm.
do to attract customers and get customers, and maybe mention where your location is? It's in like a big complex.
Yeah, so in what's called an entertainment district. So there's tons of bars and restaurants and an arena and right by the football stadium. So um, that was really beneficial early on because, you got tens of thousands of people seeing your signs, being made aware of you. Um, and the muscle, it's called Westgate, the entertainment district that we're in, and their marketing muscle early on, when they post something on social media about us, there's, we know,
Hmm.
oh, they must have posted something because we're getting, so that really helped us get to kind of cruising speed pretty quick. Now, we do social media, of course, but not we post events and stuff like that, but we have like one general ad that runs 20, constantly in the zip codes that we're marketing to, but I don't spend much on it, maybe a couple $100 a month. And then we have our email list that we send, a weekly email to. And that's pretty much it, to be honest with you.
Do your customers, are they coming once a year, 10 times a year? Are there different
Um,
segments?
we get a lot of regulars, and that was somewhat by design. It was always surprising to me. I mean, my wife and I, ever since we started dating, long, long time ago, that was our thing. We would always go to comedy clubs. We just loved going to comedy clubs. And when I started doing comedy, you meet somebody, your daughter's friends' parents find out that you do comedy, something you meet somebody and they're like, "Oh yeah, we went to stand up once. That was fun. We should do that again." And I always thought I heard that all the time. It's like, why don't you go all the time? You're always going to see something different. I just never understood that. So I wanted to do what I could to sort of encourage people to come more often. You know, I wanted it to be not too expensive of a night out. I have our shows aren't real late. Just to kind of encourage people to come more. So and we do. I haven't ran any numbers lately, but we keep track. You know, once somebody's been, well, it used to be 10 times, but I'm a little lax about that now. But after they've been so many times, we have like their name engraved on a table sign, and we put that out when they're coming. Um, so we get a lot of repeat customers. I think our number one repeat customers, the Garcias, I think they've been like 160 times or something like that.
Way to go, Garcias.
Yeah, we love them. I'm sure you saw them. I'm sure you've seen
Okay,
them.
yeah, they've probably been there when I've been there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do get a lot of repeat customers, which is great.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're winding down. Let's talk about those table toppers you have for ordering, which I think are pretty cool, and I've seen versions of them around the country.
Oh, the table lights?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what an ordeal. Yeah, so that was just an idea I had that I thought would be great, because distraction is the enemy of comedy, so it just makes sense to have a light on your table. Um, but I never intended on making them. I just figured, well, these got to be a thing. I can buy them from somewhere, and they weren't a thing. Like I couldn't find them. So early on, um, I found myself a nerd on Craigslist and told him what I wanted to do. And so he was programming the electronics for it. And he's like, we could 3D print some. So I was like, all right. So I bought him a 3D printer and we designed some. And that's what we opened with initially. And customers loved them. Everybody loved
So
them.
just for people listening, real quick, on the table, when you're a customer at Stir Crazy Comedy Club, on the table there's a device, and you can push a button, and a light turns on, and magically a server shows up because they see the light. Uh,
Yeah, it's a blue light in our room. It's a blue light. You tap it, it turns green, just subtly to let the, servers know you want something. And they work out great. Everybody loves them. Servers love them. Customers love them. but the original ones were 3D printed, and they weren't real durable, and they were constantly breaking, and he couldn't keep up with us enough to, and it was just a nightmare. So the ones that you've seen that are there, I actually bought all the parts in China, which is a enormous headache. Um, so that's what we're using now, and those are all different pieces that I got from other places, and then I put them together myself. Um, but they become such a no-brainer that I actually engaged a design company, and we have some that I'm actually selling to clubs now. They look
Wow.
totally different and they're customizable. But yeah, I mean, that's the one thing, uh, to go to a club and not have that and have to play that "Where's my server? Did she see me?" that game. Yeah, they should be in every club. Every club should have some method to not, because ultimately you want to sell drinks. That's what you got to
Yeah.
do,
What do
and
you think
why
about the
discourage?
experience where there's a QR code at your seat or table and you have to pull out your phone and you place the order?
Yeah, I mean, from an efficiency perspective, I get it, but uh, there's a good club that does that, and I found, if I go to a comedy club, and again, nobody watching this cares about any of this, just so
I
you know,
think they
Mark, it's
do. This
just
is a
you
very
and me.
niche audience.
Um, if I go to a club with my wife, I'm probably going to have 3 beers. That's me. So this club that I went to, QR code, and you got to do it. I sent it, and I brought my drink. And then throughout the show, I'm enjoying the show, and I just never got around to ordering another drink, And
Uh,
if a server had walked by and motioned to me, I would have said, "Yeah." They would have sold 2 more drinks to me.
right.
So, and I don't want to put the onus on the customer. I mean, and I don't want anybody on their phone anyway. I
Right.
don't want to
Yeah.
give them any more reason. You pick up your phone to order a drink, and now you got a text you didn't know I don't want any of that. Just
Yeah.
watch the show, tap the light, and we'll take care of it. It's just so much more easy of an
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. How do people find Stir Crazy?
Stircrazycomedyclub.com.
Okay. Anything else you want to share? Tell people? Any parting words?
I can't. I wouldn't even know who would be interested in listening to what I just told you.
A lot of people. A lot of
All
people.
right, maybe.
All right. Well, thank you for being so generous with your time, Tom.
You bet, man.
And I'm going to end the recording. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back next Monday. Tune in.